Okay, so now that we understand how we get to 1952, this is where we're actually going to start counting the generation. Okay, so this is very important because the Lord speaks about the last generation. This generation won't pass until all these things will be fulfilled. So, how do we know this? The Lord speaks about a few things: the fig tree, which we just worked out here in the calculations, and then the days of Noah, the days of Lot, and he always references to Moses. So the days of Noah are 120. Now, of course, he's not referenced to that exact passage, but we understand that he's letting us understand that that is the count. Now, what happens here is from the resurrection, death and resurrection, until Israel is no longer a nation, we have 40 years. Okay, so 30 to 70, 40 years. Okay, and these 40 years, we're going to add on to, starting in 1952, 40 years and another 40 years, totaling 120. Now, I want you to understand that's very important, because once we put together these 40 years, 30 to 70, that's the last piece of that generation when the Lord death and resurrection happens until the siege of Jerusalem. We're then left over 80 years to count up the 120, to complete the 120 years of Noah. So once we do that, then we have 40 years and 40 years. Now, these three sets of 40, they're also matching the three sets of 40 years of Moses. And those are spoken in the Acts 7:22 when Stephen talks about Moses. So the first section is Moses grows up in Egypt, 40 years. And the second section, Acts 7:30, Moses leaves Egypt, so he's away. And then in the last portion, Acts 7:36, Moses comes back to Egypt and starts the Exodus. Now, what's amazing about this is that exactly 40 years from 1952, in 1992, there's an important return of 1 million Jews from Russia to Israel, and it's called Operation Exodus. It can't be any clearer than that. And that's exactly 40 years from 1952. So it's obviously telling us that we have the right count. All we need to do is add 40 more years to get to 2032. Now things are beginning to work here. Why? Because from 52, when we count 80, which is the remaining portion of Moses and the remaining portions of Noah, we now have Psalm 90 perfectly fitting the 70 to 80 years calculation. So let's look at Psalm 90. Psalm 90 says, this is Moses writing, "The days of our years are 80 years and 10, so 70. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, so 80, yet is their strength what? Labor and sorrow, for that is soon cut off," that's the rapture, "and we fly away." So Moses just told us that the days of our life are either 70, but they're soon cut off and we fly away, rapture, or by reasons of labor and sorrow, 80. So we're left with 10 years of labor and sorrow. Those are the 10 years left over from the Daniel 70 weeks, now matching everything perfectly. And remember, the 1952, 1992, and 2032 gaps or spans really lock this in really, really well. There is one more confirmation on the 80 years, and that's in 2 Chronicles 2:2. 2 Chronicles 2:2, let alone the actual numbering 2:2:2, lining up with 2022, 2023. So what does it say? And this is actually Solomon building the temple. That can't be any more perfect. It says 2 Chronicles 2:2. I'll read from 1. And Solomon determined to build a house for the name of the Lord and a house for his kingdom. And Solomon told out 70,000 men, so 70,000, to bear burdens, and 80,000, 80,000, to hew in the mountain, and 3,600 to oversee them. So it's another reference to this span of 70 to 80, with 2 differences of what happens at the 70 mark, the rapture, versus the 80 mark, which is the enduring of tribulation, labor, and sorrow. So now to lock all of this in, because we're starting at 1948, right? And we're going all the way to 1930 to 2032. That's 84 years. But here is where the Lord is so amazing, because he tells us that we have the right calculation when we look at Luke 2:36 and talks about Anna. Anna is a prophetess, and she's 84 years old, and what? Married 7 years, representing the 7 years of when the bride and the church are actually away, married. That's clear, marriage supper of the Lamb. But totaling 84, and she's in the temple when the Lord is presented after what? 8 days old. That's the 80 years from 52 to 32. So let's read the passage about Anna. That's Luke 2:36. And there was an Anna prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Aser. She was a great age, and had lived with a husband 7 years from her virginity. She was a widow of about 84 years, 84 years, which departed not from the temple, but served God with fasting and prayers night and day. They could have told us that Anna was just an older lady, and we didn't really care much to know that she was 7 years married, other than the Lord is telling us, no, you need to know that, because those are the 7 years when the church will be away. This is the traditional view of tribulation, 7 years, which I agree to, but we see there's 3 more years left before the kingdom starts. Now we'll get into the details of those 2 sets in a different video, but this really lines everything up, telling us that this 22 to 23 is very, very, very likely the year when things get started. They will run to around 29-30. We'll talk about it in the next video, the likely return of the Lord. And then there'll be some time left over, very possibly, until 2032-33. And then it's all over. As always, this is not about knowing these dates. This is not about setting a date either. This is about knowing that the Lord is close, and that we have to have a right relationship with Christ. It is about believing. It is about seeking him to come in to us, give us the Holy Spirit, and allow him to do that process of transformation, sanctification, which will show the fruits and lead us into a holy life, without holiness, nobody will see the Lord. It is his work and not our work, but it's a work that we give him permission to do, because we have free will. And we have to absolutely ask him in prayer, fasting, and reading the word every single day, that he comes inside of us with the Holy Spirit and begins to work. Check the links in the bio and check the next video. Time is short. And by the way, last night I had my first rapture dream. It was very vivid, and I'll put out together a video to show you what happened. Peace.